It's a lovely good evening and welcome to Tele Doctor show today. I'm Dr. Blessings. I'm back. I know I was missing for some time, but now I'm back. Thank you so much for joining us, wherever you're joining us from. So before we begin, allow me to introduce to you my two people in the studio. The first one actually is my co-host, who happens to be no other than Dr. Tapiwa. Good evening, Dr. Tapiwa. Welcome to the Tele Doctor show.
Good evening, Doc. It's really nice to be here.
All right, so you'll be seeing more of Dr. Tapiwa in the next coming weeks. And then our guest, of course, today is no other than Dr. James Banda. He's coming from the University Teaching Hospital. He's actually a registrar in the Psychiatry and Mental Health Department. So welcome, Dr. James.
Thank you very much, Doc. Glad to be here.
All right, we're extremely excited to have you on the show. And today we're having a very interesting conversation. So today we are discussing sleep. Why do I fail to sleep? That is the question. And then, of course, we're discussing insomnia as the main topic of our discussion. But before we get into the nitty-gritties of our conversation today, we'll just go on a very short break where we'll be discussing health and wealth, and then we'll be right back on the other side.
A very good evening to you and welcome to our Tele Doctor show. We are continuing with this segment of health and wealth. Your health and your wealth are connected. Somebody who is financially stressed, has got a loan and the bank is following them, they are being taken to court, they can't be in a stable health. So by managing your wealth indirectly or directly, you are also impacting your health. And my guest again is Mafipe Chunga. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
What can go wrong with investment?
A number of things can go wrong. Some investments are very difficult to evaluate in terms of, am I gaining anything or am I losing?
Yeah.
A typical challenging investment is a farm. A lot of people are working and they're also running a farm. So they're getting income from their employment and sending to the farm.
Yeah.
They may or may not get anything back from there. If they're not tracking that investment going into the farm and what's coming out of it, it's very easy to make indefinite investments that are then being written off, but you're not tracking it, so you don't get to see it.
And you're becoming poorer.
Yes. Poorer because you take on a wage bill, so you're sending out salaries every month, you're investing in equipment, you're building up capacity, buildings, etc., but it may not bring you any income back. Risky.
So, a message for everyone that listens to us today.
Today, please track your investments. If you're making an investment, have a separate bank account for it, have records for it so that you can track that investment to see if it's really an investment or a black hole.
I like the black hole. Thank you so much, Mr. Chu.
Most welcome.
All right, welcome back. If you just joined us, it's a Tele Doctor show. I'm Dr. Blessings. I'm hosting, and I've been joined by my co-host, Dr. Tapiwa, and our guest, of course, Dr. James Banda. So today we're discussing insomnia. But before we get into that, allow me to just remind you on a few things. The first one being that this is a call-in interview, and you'll definitely be able to call the number that will be displayed on your screen for any questions or any contributions to Dr. James, and we'll definitely be able to attend to all those wonderful questions. We're looking forward to hearing from you. We know today's topic is very, very interesting, and we know that probably some of us could be already experiencing what we're going to be discussing. So please go ahead and ask those questions. Don't shy away. Then also a reminder that we actually have a Tele Doctor application, which is very much available for download. So for those using iPhones, you can find this on your iOS store, and for those using Android phones, in a Google Play Store. So once you download this application, you will then be able to access various services. You'll also be able to get in touch with our specialists who are actually on the other side. So you don't necessarily have to go to a hospital to see a specialist, but you can start via online, and then of course we can pick it up later on. So thank you so much once again for joining us. So a brief background about our topic today actually is that we all want to sleep well, Dr. Tapiwa and Dr. James, but then there always comes those times when you are just failing to sleep, no matter how much you try. Like you try closing your eyes, switching off the lights, and it's just not happening, right? So this particular condition, which is called insomnia, is what I want us to discuss, because I know that probably some of our viewers would already be experiencing this. Also want to find out what could be some of the causes of insomnia, what could be some of those things that could actually make you not sleep. I know just in the advert, there's actually talk about health and wealth. So I was also wondering whether maybe not being wealthy can affect your sleep. Or maybe the more money you have, the more sleep, or the better you sleep. We never know, but we'll be definitely hearing from you, Dr. James. So Dr. Tapio, what are your thoughts on this particular topic?
Yeah, it's good that you touched on the previous segment that we just watched on health and wealth, because I feel that actually, especially with how the economy is going, finances are one of the major reasons why a lot of people are having sleepless nights. And you'd find that in our generation, a lot of people are taking on more than one job, and they're doing side hustles and so forth, and you're just trying to go by. And I think that could possibly be one of the contributing factors as to why a lot of people are failing to sleep. So I think it will be very interesting to hear from a specialist how best we can go about it, because I think all of us have those moments of sleepless nights, and we want to get a good night's rest. So it's a very interesting topic.
Then of course we'll also be hearing from him, like, what is the number of hours supposed to sleep?
Exactly.
Right?
First
That's
it was
also,
8,
people
5.
say 8 hours, 5. Others say, me, I can work with 4. So I also want to hear that. So before we even start, Dr. James, just your brief overview of the topic. Even before you introduce yourself, just your general thoughts about today's topic.
I think the best place for me to start is to say, first of all, that sleep is very important. It's one of the most important things that we have, physiologically speaking, because it is during sleep that repairs are done in the body. If you're very young, that is the time that you grow, because you have your growth hormone being produced in certain parts of your sleep, certain phases of your sleep. So if you fail to sleep well, you fail to grow well, you fail to learn well, because some of the connections in the brain that are made from information, like new information, like what they'll learn today, when they sleep and they go into some section of their sleep, the brain is able to organize and consolidate the information they're getting. So sleep is very, very important, which means that when you're failing to sleep, it is also just as important, because then some of these important things, there are people in schools who are failing to remember. We talk about the blockade enzyme, and you can't remember anything. Partly it's because of sleep deprivation. You're not able to sleep, and the balances in the brain that allow you to learn, to grow, to repair yourself. Disorders as well can become an issue. Medical disorders and mental illnesses alike can be exacerbated or brought on because of lack of sleep, but also they affect our sleep. When you're sick, you fail to sleep. So it's that kind of balance and the overview that we're looking at. But also we've looked at social things. Zesco, for instance. Power comes at 0-1, you start ironing. Over time, that will affect your sleep. So there are many things that are pertinent and important to look at, and in terms of things that are causing and things that are affected by the way we sleep or the way we fail to sleep. And so I think that's basically the general overview I would give to lay a foundation of how we're going to discuss this topic.
All right, and of course, please do stay tuned. So we'll just cue in a very short break. So when we come back, I'm sure Dr. James has already given a synopsis of what we're actually going to be discussing. So when we come back, we'll then dive deep into those nitty-gritties that we all need to know about sleep. So we'll be right back after this short break. Please stay tuned.
Ambuya, are you okay? Thankfully, with the Teledoctor app, you can get premium healthcare from the comfort of your home. With the Teledoctor app, all it takes is a click, and you could not only have a nurse or doctor come and see you, you can also receive specialized services such as nursing and physiotherapy.
You see, Teledoctor aims to make access to healthcare services cheaper, faster, and convenient.
Patient app registration. After downloading the Teledoctor application, to sign in, click on the Sign In button. This will lead you to a page where you can create your own account. Fill in your phone number and email address with a valid email address. Create a new password, being careful to add an uppercase letter, a lowercase letter, a special character, a number, and a minimum of 8 characters. Fill in your names, sex, date of birth, and click to agree to the terms and privacy policy. Then, click the sign up button, which will redirect you to the login page. Fill in your email address and await a one-time password in your email inbox. To complete the 2-factor authentication, copy and paste the number emailed to you and press the login button. Then, welcome aboard! You would now have effectively signed in and are now ready to use the Teledoctor application.
Alright, welcome back. If you just joined us, it's the Tele Doctor show. We're back yet again, and today we're discussing insomnia, and so we'll be getting right into our conversation. But before we do that, allow me to just give an opportunity to my co-host to introduce herself. She's joining us for the first time, and then of course we'll also ask Dr. James to just introduce himself as well. So Dr. Tapiwa, introduce yourself and then pick it up.
Sure. Yeah. Such an honor just to say to be part of this show today. I'm Dr. Tapiwa Lukuta. I'm a medical doctor at the University Teaching Hospital, a junior medical doctor, and I'm a health enthusiast. I've been a human rights defender as well for some time, and I've also presented on a couple of shows. So today, my main task will be to co-host this lovely show with Dr. Blessings Kasenge, and yeah, it's an honor to be here.
All right, and then we can come to you, Dr. James. Just introduce yourself. Like, what do you do? But of course, even something fun, something outside the serious.
Yeah.
Generally, people don't take me as a serious person, but yeah, I am a doctor in the field of psychiatry and mental health. I'm a registrar there, which means I'm in training, doing my 3rd year or 4 now. It has become a bit of a habit to get on, media and talk about mental health, kind of promote mental health in different fora, churches, companies, different places. Because I found it more benefiting. Few people are coming to Chainama to just ask these questions. So the more we avail ourselves to the public, I find that we do much more help there to get awareness up. Fun things I do, I love music. I'm not a very good musician, but I love music. So every once in a while, I'll meet up with the guys, make some music, instruments, vocals, whatever it is. So that's one of the things I do. I love pool. I'm very bad at it, but I love to play it nonetheless. So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, all right. And thank you for the introduction. I think it's important that you actually mentioned that fewer people are coming to Chainama, and I think it's because perhaps of the stigma that's around mental health and so forth. And I think to sort of connect to what we're talking about today, what are the challenges that come about in terms of mental health, and how can we help people to actually seek to have better health-seeking behavior when it comes to such?
Okay, yeah, I was. Let me just correct the statement a little. So we're seeing larger numbers coming now.
Okay.
But a lot of them will still come quite severe and all of that. What I was referring to was, we'll not see people just coming to find out. Like, I think this is not okay with me.
Yes.
What kind of help do you think I need? Is it a mental health condition at all? But in terms of the actual numbers of people that we're seeing, it's getting quite overwhelming. More people are coming. They're still coming in a bit late. Related also to the stigma, people always think, okay, I think it's just a small thing, I'll get over it. It's just a small thing, I'll get over it. And the wide spectrum of mental health disorders sometimes is not well understood, because many people think, no, it's just psychosis. Once I run mad, then I go to Chainama. But then other disorders like depression, anxiety, eating disorders, sleeping disorders like the one we're discussing today, people may not know that there is help for this. And that's why such shows become important, so that then people are aware and they can tell, okay, if I'm having this challenge with my sleep, I can go to UTH, I can go to Chainama or whatever other facility that is available closer to my home and seek this help. If I'm not able to be helped there, then I can be referred along the cascade. So yes, stigma is real, but we're seeing a lot more people becoming more comfortable with talking about it. It might not be open discussion, But in certain spaces, you have more people opening up about mental health issues. We're trying to make as many more safe spaces available. There are private facilities that are coming on. There's decentralization of the mental health services into primary health care as well, which is kind of helping with all of these things. So hopefully with more effort and with more of such discussions, people will feel less human, will stop feeling less human when they have a mental health issue that they need to address. Men and women alike, children also will need to be identified in terms of when they have mental health issues.
That's true, and that's true. And lack of knowledge will lead us to perish, isn't it?
Definitely. People suffer because they don't know.
They don't know, exactly. And to string back to our discussion for today, so how would you describe insomnia?
So insomnia, I think colloquially we use the word just to refer to people who have difficulty sleeping. As a diagnosis, though, it's a bit more defined than that. But let me start from the word itself. So insomnia will basically refer to when you have a challenge with three things. Number one, initiating sleep. That is difficulty falling asleep. Number two, maintaining sleep. So you could fall asleep at the right time, but you wake up for whatever reason and you fail to sleep again, or it takes very long for you to fall back asleep. And then you have the third one where you wake up very early and fail to sleep at all. And if you're a student, I mean, insomnia works well for you. But like we've said, it can affect your learning as well. So that's basically what it is. And it will come in two different major packages, like most conditions. You have the acute form of insomnia, or the short-term insomnia, and then the chronic insomnia, which is more of the disorder. The short-term is what you experience in less than a month. So, for instance, you're having an interview for a job, or you have an exam coming. You may have difficulty sleeping for a few days, maybe a week or two. And once whatever the stressor is has either been resolved or you have accommodated it, then the inability to sleep kind of resolves on its own spontaneously for most people. And then you have the disorder, which is quite chronic, and in our field we use certain criteria. You have the three things that I mentioned. Then also you have difficulties, or you have those three at least 3 times every week for at least 3 months. So then you start to fall within the category or the definition of clinical insomnia. That is the disorder that we treat. In addition to that, it must not be better explained by other sleep disorders or other mental health conditions. So, for instance, if you're having this problem in the background of depression, we may treat you as a depression patient and then also address your sleep issues, because sleep disorders or deficiencies can be a symptom of other mental health conditions. Then also it must not be better explained by a substance use disorder. So for instance, there are people who use certain drugs. Alcohol is one of the most acceptable social drugs, but it also does have an effect on sleep. Many people say, no, it helps me sleep, but it does have an effect on sleep. So if you have an alcohol use disorder which is causing you not to sleep well, then we'll more diagnose you around alcohol use, but also recognize that you have symptoms bordering around sleep. So for the symptoms of insomnia itself, that is what you want to say, oh, finally, you must have enough time to sleep. So if you are trying to sleep and I'm always poking you, you don't have enough time to sleep. That may not be the disorder of insomnia, but you will have
being
sleep
disturbed.
You have sleep deprivation. So it is failure to sleep for at least 3 nights in a week for at least 3 months, not better explained by any other condition, where a person has enough time to actually fall asleep, then we'll diagnose you with the disorder of insomnia. But generally we have this difficulty sleeping and deficiencies in sleep as a result of many things that happen around us.
Okay. And I think with that description, I don't know, Dr. Kasenge, have you identified yourself in the spectrum somewhere?
I think for me the question I had was just like, how long should it take you to sleep? Like when I close my eyes on my bed and say, I now want to sleep, like is it an hour I should be sleeping, or
are there stages of sleep basically?
There are stages of sleep, but that's I'll get to that. Let me address how long should this take you. On average, studies say you should be sleeping within 20 minutes of your head hitting the pillow.
20 minutes.
Beyond 30 minutes, then we say you might have a difficulty you might have latency of initiation of sleep. So you're taking longer than we expect you to. And many people will find themselves having issues on this one, because a lot of people, go to bed 22. By the time they're sleeping, it's like maybe quarter to midnight. Sometimes after midnight.
True.
That's when they're actually falling asleep. So that is not.
So those also have insomnia.
They have a latency problem in terms of initiating but then there may be other things. A lot of people are using more phones.
Social media.
That's true.
TVs in their rooms. So that's affecting how quickly they
many disturbances.
A lot of people just have the bad habit of going to bed when you're not sleeping.
Exactly.
So those are some of the things to look at. But generally, within 20 minutes. That also applies in terms of maintenance. If I woke up in the night, for whatever reason, I should be able to reinitiate sleep within 20 minutes. Beyond that, I may be having an issue with maintaining my sleep.
Right.
And then the last one, which we call late insomnia, is where if I just woke up and failed to sleep again, that's quite obvious. So within 20 minutes, you should be able to fall asleep if things are done.
If things are done right. And I like that you've mentioned social media. I read an article some years back that say that you should have used your phone for the last time maybe in 2 hours before you actually fall asleep. How true is that? Like, screen time also affects sleep and the nature of your sleep, I guess.
Definitely.
Quality of your sleep.
Definitely. Screen time will affect many things, including your sleep. It affects attention. We've seen a lot more accidents because of screen time. But in terms of sleep, you want to avoid having exposure to that light. We've heard of the circadian rhythm. That's your sleep-wake kind of cycle. It also works with the structures in your eye, which respond to light. So when you have exposure to the UV lights or the rays that come from screens and televisions, it's almost like you're telling your brain it's not yet time to sleep. It's nighttime. And that can warp your way, your cycle, your system of knowing this is now time to sleep. And the physiology then causes you to start having insomnia. Because the body has gotten used to being told, no, it's not yet time to sleep. There's still light, and the body responds to that. So you want to avoid that. And there's something we'll discuss a bit later, I'm sure, called sleep hygiene, where we need to clean up our habits in terms of securing our sleeping time. But screen time is very, very important. Avoid it as much as you can, even during the day. People are becoming more unproductive because of it. But even more so during the night, avoid phones at bedtime, avoid screens, especially in your sleeping quarters, to just make things a bit better. So that's quite true.
And I'm sure this applies not just to adults, as children alike.
Yes, far much more even for children, because children are still growing. They're still developing. We only produce the growth hormone during what we call slow wave sleep. That's like stage 4. I know I haven't talked about the stages of sleep. Basically, let me just double back. So when we come to talking about sleep, there are 2 major categories that we'll look at. Rapid eye movement sleep and non-rapid eye movement sleep. So it's basically the way it sounds. Rapid eye movements, meaning that your eyes have that rapid movements, which signify brain activity. In your non-rapid eye movement sleep, you have stages. So you move from stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, where you start having like mostly slow wave sleep, and stage 4, where you have now like proper slow wave sleep, where you are actually paralyzed. Your body is not moving, you have no movement. And that is the stage in which you have more production of growth hormone, and you have more repairs and all of these things that we're talking about happening in that stage. So if you have a child who is sleeping after midnight, for instance, you have more of stage 4 sleep before midnight in the first half of your sleep. And as you go towards waking time, that slow wave sleep reduces in terms of duration, and you have more rapid eye movement sleep. So both of these are called deep sleep, even though one is rapid eye movement and the other is non-rapid eye movement. So when you don't sleep during, give yourself enough time before midnight to sleep, then you limit how much growth hormone you have, you limit how much repairs your body can do, you limit how much growth your body can do during that time when you're sleeping, because for some reason the body requires you to be asleep to repair. Do you repair a car while it's moving? No, you have to pack it, leave it at the garage, go to do your stuff. So basically that's the same principle. You have to park your car, which is your body, allow it to rest, and then it will start to repair itself and help you to rebuild and to grow and all of those things. So if you have children who are not sleeping, their growth becomes affected, their ability to learn becomes affected, and so on and so forth.
Very important. And I think there should be an adverse effect, I guess, of getting little sleep to our health, and especially people who've got maybe a bad diet and so forth. So what would be your take on that? Is there any effect of getting little sleep as well as having an unhealthy diet? Is there any correlation between the two? Because I know that if I stay late, most times I get very hungry. I don't know if everyone experiences that.
That's very true.
Right?
That's very true,
and you start to eat more at night because you've been up. I don't know. Is there any correlation?
There is. There are very few things that surpass or go beyond nutrition as far as the body is concerned. Almost everything is influenced and affected by what you eat, including sleep.
Okay.
Let me start from maybe a more technical end and then bring it back up. Studies have shown that deficiencies in certain vitamins, for instance, vitamin D, vitamin B, B5, B6, and B1 have an impact on your ability to actually initiate and maintain sleep. And all of those are gotten from substrates that we get in our nutrition, in our diet. But also we know that if you sleep on an empty stomach, you're not sleeping well.
True.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a given. But also if you sleep on a very heavy stomach, shima with 5 T-bones and whatever it is,
also that's
you're not going to sleep. So it's both from that aspect of how much have you eaten, is it enough for your body to run you through the night? Because I mean, we've talked about growth, we've talked about everything. So if you're
there's a lot of work at night.
It's not a passive process, basically. It's an active process. The body is actually working.
That's true.
So if your diet is very bad, you have difficulties in sleeping. Let me come to some common things that we do. A lot of sugar. It's especially in kids, we see it quite easily. They get a sugar high. And so if they ingest too much sugar around the time that they're supposed to go and sleep, it's not time to start running around. Of course, there's growth and building, but you're not going to expend that sugar.
True.
So it will have an impact on your sleep. The body is saying, look, for the amount of sugar we have, we need to be running a marathon, and then you want to go and sleep. Like that just
doesn't work.
Exactly.
So there's things like that. Ingestion of things like caffeine, foods that are more stimulating will affect your sleep.
True.
But also if you ingest things that are more that cause you to feel more drowsy, then you may have a lot more sleep. And just because we're discussing insomnia doesn't mean that sleeping too much is not a problem. Because you have a disorder called hypersomnolence, where you sleep for too long, or narcolepsy, where you just get sleep attacks even when you're not supposed to sleep, like just now, drop.
But the people will say, like, for them, coffee is like that's opposite. Like,
I've heard that.
when I take energy drinks, like I just want to sleep even more.
There are people who have said that, but I think the basic point we're driving at is what you put into your body in terms of food will definitely affect your sleep. So if you're taking alcohol, for instance, it can affect your sleep. You're taking coffee, if you're taking other forms of substances and drugs, will affect. If you're eating too much before sleeping, it will affect your sleep. If you're eating too little or nothing at all before sleeping, it can affect your sleep. Doesn't mean that everyone who will not eat supper will not sleep. There are people who are able to go on and sleep. But yes, nutrition becomes very, very important for your ability to maintain and sustain a healthy sleep, both in terms of quantity and in terms of quality of that sleep.
And then also I think that the timing of the meals, like the time that you eat, like supper. I know people sometimes prefer to eat at midnight. That's when they're like eating your supper. So how does
but now
that
it's
also...
Zesco. I don't think some of us don't even have a choice now.
People are eating PRIN as well. Whenever opportunity comes.
Yes, that's true.
But
that's true.
you don't want to eat too late. If you can eat at least maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours before you actually your bedtime, it allows for your body to actually have done the digestion in the stomach and push the food down. Depending on also what you've eaten, some foods take much longer, but for the most part 2 hours is sufficient. You have your meal, chat around with family. If you're able to even do a small walk or light exercise, enables you to push that food down as quickly as possible, and then can also improve your rest.
And maybe just a final question from my end would be, like, who is more predisposed to getting very little sleep? Because I know that there are certain professions, there are certain people who have a certain lifestyle, maybe those who have to be hyper alert about getting enough sleep. Which groups of people would you say are more predisposed to insomnia?
Let me change the question slightly before I get to who is actually more predisposed, and just discuss some of the common things that will cause you, or the contributing factors that can cause one to have insomnia. When we talk about mental health disorders, we usually talk about the biopsychosocial model. And that's to mean that we need to look at the human being in a more holistic way, as opposed to just one aspect. For instance, you ask about occupation. It's more of a social phenomenon, our jobs, what we do. But there are biological aspects as well, and psychological aspects that will influence and affect the development of pretty much all the disorders that we can talk about. But in this case, insomnia. So insomnia has a genetic predisposition as well. If you come from a parent or a family line where people have a tendency to have insomnia, there is between a 25 to 40% chance that you may have the same disorder. And we're saying chance, not that if they are there, then you definitely have it. Because you also have psychological and social aspects that should come into play to determine whether you actually have the presentation, what we call phenotype, the actual disease that people will see. So genetic issues become relevant. And in that state, you can't change your genes, can you? But we can influence the environment. And so in the environment is where we have psychological issues, where some people may have been predisposed to certain societies or even events that have influenced their psychology or their psyche. Exposure to trauma, for instance, can affect your sleep. So people who have exposure to very traumatic situations, especially in childhood, what we call adverse childhood events, will find themselves having difficulties with sleep. And it becomes even worse if you have genetic predisposition and then you have an environmental exposure. Society and social phenomena, like our jobs, we have to work on call at night. That's time to sleep. But, emergencies don't choose. No, this is a bad case of an accident, let's have it at 05 when they wake up. No, doctors have to be awake. And so such kinds of things can affect the sleep as well.
That's true.
Being a mother, for instance, I mean, the baby wants to eat when it wants to eat, it will poop when it poops. And you have to attend to that child. Midnight, 01, 03, you have to attend to those things. So those are issues within the social space that will affect one's sleep. And in terms of occupation, definitely shifted workers who have a problem, because sometimes your shift starts at 18. That is when the sun is going down. Everything in your body is telling you now we need to sleep. But the job is saying now you need to work. So if you're on a shifted job, or you're on one of those on-call jobs where you have to work through the night, so you have policemen, doctors, nurses, caregivers, in terms of, if you're in an elderly home or you're assisting someone at home, people who have or nursing little children, people who live around industrial areas, start to become affected by the noise, the job. And because of forcing yourself to be awake during times you need to sleep, it can become a behavioral thing. The body just learns that this is not time to sleep. And so even when you're off, you find it difficult to initiate sleep. In the short term, one of the things that we saw commonly in school was around exams. People will stay awake for a very long time, and then when they've written the exams and they've closed, they go home. They can't initiate sleep on demand. It takes a bit of time for them to readjust. So there are occupations that can predispose us to these things. For some jobs, how can we prevent it? It's difficult. It's very difficult. I mean, that's the obvious thing that everyone will ask. How do I prevent this issue? But I think one of the issues becomes when you're not on that shift where you have to work in the night, work on normalizing. So sometimes you have jobs where you work through the night and then the next week you have a night off. Try to normalize that circadian rhythm, try to normalize that sleep cycle so that the body can readjust. And of course, you have to keep on doing it for as long as you get that job. Those are things to look into.
All right, then of course you can join us in this conversation by calling the number displayed on your screen. If you've got any questions to Dr. James or any contributions you want to make, just basically around sleep and whether you've been having any challenges falling asleep and what your experience has been generally with sleep. So we'll kill in a break. So after the break, we'll then come back and just find out how best can we treat this insomnia and how best can we be helped for some of us who may actually be experiencing it. So be right back after this short break. Please stay tuned.
Symptoms like chest pain, shortness of breath, dizziness, or heart palpitations? If so, a Holter monitor. A Holter monitor is a small, portable device that records your heart's electrical activity over a 24-hour period or more. It's like a mini EKG you wear all day. Often recommended for individuals with known heart conditions, a Holter monitor can also be used for general heart health checkups, especially for athletes or those with concerns about their heart rhythm. How does it work? The Holter monitor consists of a small recording device and adhesive electrodes placed on your chest. It continuously records your heart's electrical activity, allowing your doctor to identify any irregularities. With the ECG 247 app, you can monitor your heart rate and rhythm in real time as you perform your daily activities like showering or exercising. Your doctor can also remotely access your heart data to provide expert analysis. For more information, contact us on 0979-904046 and email us at info@teledoctorzambia.com or search for our website at teledoctorzambia.com.
Alright, welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the Tele Doctor show. We're back yet again on a very beautiful Tuesday evening like today. And today we're discussing insomnia. And so far we have discussed quite a lot with Dr. James. He's given us really a proper definition of what insomnia is and just generally how many hours you should sleep. He's given us a lot of information really. What are some of the causes of why people actually fail to sleep? And of course, he also talked a bit about just in terms of the stages of sleep that people actually go through. And then, of course, he also talked about different factors that may then affect how you sleep. He talked about biological factors, psychosocial factors. And then, of course, we are now just getting into the treatment of insomnia itself. So before we even get into the treatment, Dr. James, one thing that just came into my mind or popped up in my mind is the aspect of nightmares. Do nightmares even exist? So people say, I can't sleep, I'm always having nightmares. So it's almost like it's one of those things that prevents people, I don't know, like disturbs people's sleep.
That's true. What's happening when
what's
you're
the science behind
really
nightmares?
What's sleeping?
Really
I think, are they real?
Yeah.
So nightmares are real. What's the science behind them? I may not be able to elaborate in the most detail on that one, but we see nightmares occurring especially in what we call trauma and stress-related disorders. That is where you find disorders like post-traumatic stress disorder and all of those things. Because of the way that sleep is structured and the stages that are there, just to recap, you have got your awake state, then you have got your rapid eye movements, and you go into non-rapid eye movement sleep, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. In these different aspects of sleep, in the rapid eye movement is where you're dreaming. And in these other, like for instance in stage 4 is where you have consolidation of ideas and neuroplasticity, the brain connections connecting and strengthening or breaking or whatever it is. You have in your rapid eye movement sometimes that dreams can be very vivid and very scary, especially in the background of a trauma. So if you've been traumatized, that is, you've perceived or experienced something that is traumatizing to you. Most common we talk about things like car accidents, abuse, emotional, physical, sexual, etc. It is possible for you to have re-experiencing episodes, which means that it is almost as though it is happening to you again. And in that moment, it can be very difficult to tell whether it is actually happening or not happening. I've had patients who have had re-experiencing episodes and they've ended up beating people who are in the immediate environment.
Really? Like, you guys feel like this is...
in whatever that we're experiencing, they feel that the threat is right in their presence. So it does happen, and it is real. Different circumstances can result in that. For instance, children who have watched something very scary can re-experience that in their dreams as nightmares, and that can definitely affect their sleep. As a mental health disorder, like I've said, trauma and stress-related disorders would contribute the most towards that aspect of deficiencies in sleep.
All right, now the treatment.
So in terms of treatment of insomnia, you have different modalities. The most obvious one that many people know about is drugs. And in reality, most people who have this insomnia or sleeping disorders do not even come to you doctors for prescriptions. They self-medicate. And many of them self-medicate on substances like alcohol, on certain drugs that they can find within the community, that they just know that this will help you sleep.
This is going to help me sleep,
But generally, we do have medications that we use to help people with sleeping disorders. So they range from benzodiazepines, which we know, our lorazepams and all of those other kinds of drugs. You have sometimes people who use drugs like barbiturates, phenobarbital, and drugs like that. Then you have supplements that people use to promote the state of sleeping, like melatonin and other GABA receptor drugs, or drugs that act on that part of the brain, which will result in like a depressing kind of effect on the brain, because sleeping is moving from being alert, depressing the functions of the system and the brain to allow you to get into that sleeping mode. So we have those medications that can be prescribed and can be used, both conventional, and there are also some herbal preparations that have been proven to help with sleep.
Really? So are there any home remedies like mixed eggs with ginger, with milk?
I heard lavender helps as well.
Yeah, there are certain smells that help with because we see with sleep initiation, you have to have that relaxed mode, which can also then promote you to get into that sleeping mode, which is what melatonin itself will do. So you have herbal preparations like valerian, but these are still considered as pharmacological agents because they act on receptors and influence the way your body works. In terms of non-pharmacological, like things that do not need prescription per se, foods like lettuce, I haven't seen any studies that have proven, but some people have reported that when they have like a lettuce salad an hour or so before their meal, it helps them to relax and things like that. And different people have different things that will help them feel relaxed. But in terms of prescription, you probably won't be prescribing lettuce for you. But there are all of those things that help. Some people play some music, listen to jazz,
slow music and all that.
So, but then
what about Nshima? Nshima is supposed to make you sleep.
It could make you sleep. We don't know about the quality of that sleep, but it could make you sleep. So we have the drugs. Then you have what we call psychotherapeutic interventions as well. So we have things like cognitive behavioral therapy and other behavioral therapies in which you have brief interventions like sleep hygiene, where we educate the patient on things to do, avoiding light, avoiding noise, avoiding stimulating activities when it's time to go to bed. Also correcting some of the habits. Don't stay in bed when it's not time to sleep. So you're just in bed, they are playing on your phone. Behaviorally speaking, you are teaching your mind that this is a place to play. So when it's time to initiate sleep, it might not make that association as easily, so want to modify some of those behaviors. In fact, there's a form of CBT which they call CBTI, which is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And what the principle in that form of therapy is, I mean, one of them is that you have developed a bad habit of teaching your body to do other things in the place where it should sleep. So if you go into bed and start worrying about your whole day and it takes you 5 hours.
There's actually other people who say, I sleep in the sitting room on the couch, but when I go to bed,
then
in the bedroom, like the sleep just goes.
True.
So
I think that's a common thing.
That we want to improve and make sure that you can address to improve people's sleep. But also you want to understand what the underlying cause is before you just get into these things. Because if I'm having difficulty sleeping because I've had an amputation, lettuce is not doing anything for me. So I need to manage that pain.
That's true.
If I'm having difficulty sleeping because I've got a cough and I'm coughing, vehemently very so often, I want to deal with that. As I said, medical conditions can contribute to insomnia as much as insomnia will contribute to those medical conditions as well. Mental health issues, depression, anxiety can influence and affect your ability to sleep, but also your ability to sleep or your inability to sleep because you have insomnia now will also worsen the outcomes in terms of the mental issues that you have. So identifying what is actually underlying this inability to sleep and addressing that becomes a principal thing. But the major agencies that we'll use are your drugs and your psychotherapeutic agencies or interventions that you can then employ to help people with insomnia.
All right, before we get to the myths and the facts, just a bit more on sleep paralysis. What is sleep paralysis and how would you link it to insomnia?
Sleep paralysis, the common satanic attack.
Yes. They say witch riding your back.
Yes. And then people just wake up shouting, blood of Jesus.
Yes.
Sleep paralysis is basically when you gain consciousness while you have a paralytic state. So while you're in let me just double back. We talked about light sleep and deep sleep.
Okay.
Deep sleep is when you have either you are in stage 4 of your slow wave sleep or you are in rapid eye movement sleep. So in rapid eye movement sleep, or basically in deep sleep, you have a corresponding paralysis to the body.
Right.
So if you are in that phase and that's where your body is repairing itself, you're literally paralyzed, you're not moving.
Wow.
And the brain has orchestrated it in such a way that it can paralyze you to enable repair. If during that phase you regain consciousness, so now you become aware of your environment, you are conscious, you have woken up, but your paralysis hasn't been lifted off, it hasn't weared off. So you now can't move your hands, your legs, and all of that, and you become aware and conscious of that. That is the basic experience of sleep paralysis. And then over time, within a short time, usually to wear off and you're able to move, people open their windows. The other thing that comes with sleep paralysis are hallucinations that are associated with initiation of sleep and coming out of sleep. They're basically called hypnagogic or hypnopompic kind of hallucinations. The hallucination basically is when you are seeing, feeling, hearing, tasting, or smelling something that is not there. And most commonly we'll talk about visual hallucinations. So when you see things that are not there. So when people are like waking out of sleep, sometimes in that sleep paralysis, people will experience some form of hallucination or perception of something black.
I see something black.
And that usually adds to that idea spiritual attack. I'm being attacked by someone, and if you go to some people, your cousin or your grandma or whatever it is. But that's basically the structure of sleep paralysis.
But is it concerning though? Because I know some people who experience this quite frequently. I think all of us maybe have experienced it once or twice, but if you continue having these experiences, it's something that you should seek medical advice
for. If it's very frequent and is causing distress, then definitely you need to seek attention for that. And that's the basic rule of thumb in most mental health issues. Even though it looks like a small thing to other people, you want to downplay it in society as a small thing, if it's affecting you that much, then seek attention for it. It's important to you. So most of us will have it every once in a while, but if it's very frequent, it means that sleep-wake cycle is not operating the way it should be. And you may need some attention for that.
All right, interesting. So we'll now get into the myths and the facts.
Before we get into that though, let me just mention that sleep has become a whole field. There's like sleep medicine now. People study it as a thing. In our country now, we have neurologists who are looking into sleep. We have general physicians who look into sleep. We have psychiatrists who look into sleep. And you would want to seek help from those. You can seek help from your first level hospitals, and they're able to help you, especially with that acute sleep. If it's chronic and something that is debilitating your ability to function in your day-to-day, then you might need more specialist care, and those who are in the first levels will be able to direct you as needed to those facilities. But if you have access to a psychiatrist, a neurologist, or whatever specialist that I've mentioned, you can go there and they'll be able to assist you with making an assessment and diagnosis and seeing how best you can be assisted with the problem of sleep.
All right, and then of course we do have all these specialists on our application, the Tele Doctor application, so you can simply download the application or call our customer care line, which is 0979 904046. Now, Tapio, I think you can take the first 3 and I will do the last 2.
Okay. So, well, it's a basic true or false question. So from the saying, there's no sleep for the wicked, is it true that issues with sleep or sleep disturbance or a disturbance in your sleep pattern comes from having a troubled mind? Is that true? Or is it false?
Not everything.
Okay.
We've explored the biopsychosocial model.
Yes.
So it's not everyone who is having a problem with sleep who is a wicked person. Who is having a troubled mind.
Okay.
But a troubled mind can contribute, but it doesn't mean that if you have insomnia that there's always something troubled in your mind.
Okay. No, that's good. I think the second one that I'll ask is a very important one. Is it true or is it false that alcohol actually helps people to sleep?
Initially, when you start taking alcohol, it may seem that it is supporting sleep.
Okay.
But what studies have shown is that you'll be tolerant to it within the first week.
Okay.
And after that, you have to take more alcohol for you to actually fall asleep. Beyond that, you'll find that it actually disrupts your ability to sleep, because then the centers in your brain where you need to initiate that depressive kind of effect on your system is lost, and your ability to then fall asleep becomes limited. So alcohol must not be used for sleep. If you're having trouble with sleeping, seek help. Don't take alcohol.
So in the opposite manner, should people use energy drinks to stay awake? I think that's
another discussion, but it does have effects on the individual. As much as possible, avoid those stimulants. Caffeine is actually an addictive drug, so you want to avoid it. It has effects on the heart and other things, but basically you want to avoid it as much as possible for staying awake for long periods of time.
All right, so the last 2, so I'm sure you'll do this in 10 seconds each. So your body gets used to lack of sleep. You can do with sleeping less.
No. Don't get used to not sleeping. We've discussed the importance of sleep. So if you're sleeping less, you are cutting down on your ability to do all of these important repairs and things that the body needs to do. There are people who are okay with the way that they sleep. They know how to balance whatever they're doing. If their functionality is fine and they're not having difficulties, it's not causing distress, they may not fit the criteria. But as much as possible, support your body by falling asleep so that you can regenerate and rejuvenate.
All right, sleeping less is an important requirement for being a hard-working person.
Very, very important. One of my mentors is very hardworking but very religious with sleep. He will not, if there are things to be done and it's time for bed, he will leave them aside and wake up in the morning and continue doing that. So sleep is not a mark of being hardworking. It can sometimes be sacrificed for hard work, but don't make it a habit of it. It doesn't mean that you are hardworking every time you're awake. Most people actually waste the night hours.
That's true.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. James. So we are wrapping up our show, but before we conclude, allow me just run you through some of the important updates coming through from our clinics as well as our new podcast. So I'm sure if you look at your screen, I'm sure you should be able to see something rolling on your screen. So we do have various clinics that are available on the Tele Doctor application, of course in conjunction with Woodland Specialist Clinic. And then we also have a new podcast that has recently been launched by Professor Wilfred Mutale. So please also be on the lookout for that. So you can look at your screen now. We have a variety of services. We have laboratory services available at Woodland Specialist Clinic. So you can simply call the number 0979 904046 and we'll definitely be able to attend to you. And then we also have a home doctor service if you want to access a physician or a nurse or a physiotherapist in the comfort of your home. That service is very much available, so please get dialing. We have a skincare clinic. If you've got any challenges with your skin, it could be acne, eczema, it could be dry skin, itchy skin, this clinic happens every Tuesday and Thursday at Woodland Specialist Clinic. Then we also have a hypertension and diabetes clinic. So please, you can also be able to screen, and all these services are actually available on our application. So please get downloading. And so here ends our show. Thank you so much, Dr. James, and of course thank you so much, Dr. Tupiwa, for having joined us, and this was a great show. And of course thank you so much everyone for joining us. Tomorrow again we're back on Radio Phoenix at 9 hours, so please do join us. This has been yours truly, Dr. Blessing, joined by Dr. Tupiwa and Dr. James. Until next week, it's bye bye and have a great evening.